The following is a presentation of MoonLight Media Works. Welcome in to a special midweek edition of the Collins Janus Show. It is Draft Show Extravaganza week here at MoonLight Media Works, and we've got a lot going on this week. Didn't get you an episode last week. Work got really busy, man. You know, it gets out of hand sometimes when you're trying to do so many things. You got hands in a lot of different projects right now. Not trying to brag or nothing. A lot of things going on. But felt awful that we couldn't get you a show last week. So here it is. It's one that's going to drop today on Wednesday. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter show because tomorrow, the Draft Show Extravaganza with the third annual, count them, 1, 2, 3, third annual Draft Show Extravaganza airs tomorrow night live on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. If you haven't already subscribed, MoonLight Media Works on YouTube. It should also be live on TikTok. And this is going to be the interesting one. It'll be live on my personal, show page TikTok, which is at CollinsJ9898. I know it's stupid, but that's what I got for it. So we're going to try and be live on that page as well. We may even be live as well here on Riverside and possibly on my personal Facebook page, but that's neither here nor there. Thanks to Instagram, we can't do Instagram Live because we don't have enough followers. So if you haven't already, please follow MoonLight Media Works on Instagram. Name's pretty much the same across every platform. You type that in, you're going to find the page. Look for the cowboy on the horse with the moon. It's not hard. We made it a real easy logo, easily identifiable. If you're wondering why I have my sunglasses on, I am doing it in honor of Jack Nicholson, whose birthday is today. And Jack doesn't go anywhere without the old shades on anymore. And if I'm being honest, I've been wearing this kind of frame sunglasses for a long time, and it's due in part to basically two people, Jack being one of them, and the Blues Brothers, which is obviously where the blue tint comes in from. I was obsessed with that movie as a kid, or I guess as a teen, all the way up till now. I still am. And Jack Nicholson is one of my he's on my Mount Rushmore of actors. He's on the Mount Rushmore of dream, dinner guests you sit down with, alive or dead. That old question that comes up all the time. Who would you rather have, come to a dinner so you could sit down and talk with them? He's up there with John Lennon, who's obviously dead, Keith Richards, who will outlive us all, Clint Eastwood, Robert Duvall, rest in peace. Those are some of the names that immediately jump out. If you go into sports, there's so many. I could go Ted Williams. Just loved it. Tony Gwynn. Weirdly enough, I'd love to sit down and just talk hitting with Tony Gwynn or Ted Williams. I've seen an interview of those two going back and forth talking hitting, and I thought to have been a fly on the wall in that conversation would have been awesome. So many of those, but Jack's always been up there. I mean, Jack, between his performance in Chinatown, which is one of my absolute favorite movies of all time. He's got the iconic performance in The Shining. He's got the Joker in the original Batman that was in '89, I believe. The single largest start to the Marvel, or what became the Marvel, DC, all the major superhero franchise movies. Before it got really obnoxious, it was really tongue-in-cheek. It was really fun. Michael Keaton as Batman and the Joker as Jack Nicholson, and it was perfectly cast. Going beyond that, I loved his role in The Departed. The Departed is in my top 10 favorite movies list, and actually, going down the road, we've got a new segment we're going to unveil today on the podcast, but we're going to have a couple of reoccurring segments like this. It's going to be, rolled out through the coming weeks, and we'll have different topics, and you'll see what I'm talking about a little later on. But I am going to go through my Letterboxd. For those that don't know, Letterboxd is where you can categorize and log all the movies and things you've watched. I've gotten really obsessed with doing it now. I'll watch something new and I immediately go log it because I'm fascinated to see the whole picture of what I've watched over the years. So I do love that. But today I'm wearing the shades all podcast long because of Jack Nicholson. And as I mentioned, The Departed. Oh my, and it's basically one of the last things he ever did. And, that character of Costello, some people thought he played it too obnoxiously with all the rat. But I think that I was obsessed with that movie. And I mean, I get it. There's flaws and inaccuracies to Boston itself, or the idea that this character, Frank Costello, is based off of Whitey Bulger. Doesn't matter. It's a phenomenal movie. You got Mark Wahlberg. You've got no, sorry, not Ben Affleck. That's the town. You've got Mark Wahlberg. You've got Leo DiCaprio. You got Matt Damon. You've got Martin Sheen in there. You've got all sorts of great actors rounding out the part of the cast there. But I mean, the second Jack Nicholson opens that movie up all the way through to the end, I mean, he's. There are serious franchises and actors that I will go and do I just want to see all your scenes in a movie, and that's one where you could be like, just give me the super cut of any time Jack Nicholson is on screen, much in the same way like you could do with the Joker when he played the Joker in that Batman movie, or Heath Ledger's Joker. There's compilations of that out on YouTube. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, where you can just go, all right, park me in front of that and let me go. But yeah, we got a lot we're going to get into today. Obviously, teasing the show tomorrow night. We've got, I'll give you our big board top 10 players to watch in the draft class tomorrow night. I'm not going to give too much away about that. We're going to have plenty to talk about. We're going to start live at 7:30 is our hope. Technology depending. 7:30 is the start time, and we'll put all that out on social media tomorrow. Well, we'll talk some other things before we get into the end of the show. We've got a couple things. We've got what's got my attention this week. We've got some other things, but I want to start first with the NBA and the NHL postseason. As a diehard hockey fan and somebody getting back into love with the NBA. Over the last couple years, I've been a lapsed NBA fan. I mean, I grew up a Celtics fan when the Celtics had the big three, and I've always kind of never stopped watching them, and I've never stopped watching the Hornets basically since I moved to Charlotte. And basically since they drafted Kemba Walker, who's my favorite basketball player of all time. But I'm obviously at this point a bigger Hornets fan than I am anything else. And the Hornets postseason run or into the play-in was a great thing to be a part of in this community. For so long, the Hornets have just been a mess. There's nothing other than that to say. They have been disappointing for years. And, some ownership changes have moved around. Michael Jordan sold out and got out of team ownership. New group came in. They've drafted really well in the last couple years. They put in guys like Brandon Miller in big roles. Con Knippel made a big impact on this team this year. As you can see here, he deserved to be in the conversation and probably deserves to win Rookie of the Year if you're asking my honest opinion. Did not have a great play-in tournament, but that's okay. I mean, the guy has stepped up all year long for the Hornets. It's bound to reason that at some point a rookie might not flourish every week. But Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, Moussa Diabate, this was a really fun team to watch and be a part of and cover and do all that stuff this year. Got to be a part of the play-in game on Tuesday against the Heat. That was cool, getting to be inside the building. Look, I got the free shirt there. Protect the Hive. And they did, in fact, protect the Hive. It went to overtime. One of the most thrilling basketball games I have ever been to in person. I will give that compliment right off the bat. The environment inside the Spectrum Center was insane. It's probably the best environment I've ever been to in that building. And I've been to NCAA tournament games in there, been to concerts in there. I've never seen it that full, and I've never seen it that committed. The Hornets fans this season really deserve a big pat on the back, and I'm including myself in that conversation because I am a Hornets fan. But they're a lot longer suffering Hornets fans than mine, my own tenure with it. But just a phenomenal game, back and forth, lots of controversy there, whether LaMelo pushed down Bam Adebayo. I'm not going to get into all that. He was fine. Let's just move on. I think that's probably what needed to happen, is just a fine. There didn't need to be a foul. Didn't need to be a suspension. You want to fine him. But, I mean, to do it against Miami, which has always been a Hornets thorn in their side for pretty much their entire existence, was really gratifying. And again, the end of that against the Magic 2 nights later was disappointing. But, you move on. You can take something from this year. There's so much to take from this year. So it's been great to see. But in looking at the whole NBA and NHL postseason picture, let's take a look at what we have left. I said on the radio on WFNZ that I said that I thought the Thunder were going to win the title this year. I thought they were going to go back-to-back. I don't love it as a pick, but it's pretty chalk in my estimation as far as that goes. So what you have left in the East, you have the number 1 seed Pistons and the Magic. The Magic are up 1-0 on Detroit. If Detroit somehow doesn't win that series and at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals, they have completely dropped the ball here. They're getting the Magic out in Series 1. You've got the Cavs, Raptors, Cleveland up 2-0 in that one. Cleveland should roll in that one. The Knicks and Hawks splitting at 1-1. The Hawks are, to me, like the weirdest story this year because I thought they were waving the white flag when they traded Trae Young. I thought that was the surrender index. I thought that was up. I thought we're done here. Let's wrap it up, put it up. We'll come back and do something else. Apparently not. They're giving the Knicks a fight. And you got the Celtics and 76ers. I mean, that's a tale as old as time. The Sixers don't win those series. But the Celtics last year should not have lost in the way they did to the Knicks, so anything is possible anymore. Although I love Joe Mazzulla. He's my favorite. He's my favorite coach to watch in pro sports. He's just a psycho, and I love it. And as somebody who did, like I said, grow up the Celtics, never stopped watching the Celtics, keep watching the Celtics. You know, I get it. It's bad to be a fan of 2 teams in the Eastern Conference, but it's really never been a conflict. It really isn't. I grew up a Celtics fan. I live in Charlotte. I watch the Hornets. I root for the Hornets. I do a lot of things, during the season. But I've never given up loving that part of my time as a Celtics fan. It just is what it is. And I don't apologize for anything I root for because I've been consistent. That's the difference between me. Anything I say or anything I root for in this life, I have been consistent. Other than when I was like maybe 5 or 6, okay? Cut me a little bit of slack before I knew my ass from a hole in the ground. Before I knew that, you can throw any opinion a child has about sports out the window. But from the formative years on, I have been consistent. And that's all I expect of others. I don't care if there's overlap. I don't care who you root for. I don't care if you live where your team is or not. Just be consistent. And at least let it make sense. And if you can explain it to me and it makes sense and you're consistent and you're not flipping teams every 5 years, God bless. Move on. In the West, Thunder up on the Suns 1-0 in that series. Lakers up 2-0 on the Rockets. Nuggets and Timberwolves, that's going to be a brutal series. They're tied at 1-1. And Spurs Trailblazers split at 1-1. I believe the Spurs, to me, are the most interesting team in the Western Conference, and they're probably the team I would like to see come out of the West. But I think Oklahoma City's got a path there. They're going to beat the Suns. They're going to get the Lakers, or I think they're going to probably wind up at some point having a matchup with, if they run it, I don't see a path for the Lakers. I think the Lakers are just kind of in purgatory right now, is probably the nicest way to put it. And then the Nuggets and Timberwolves, winner of that series could go far. It's just a matter of whether they get the Spurs or the Trailblazers. Again, Wemby being hurt with, I believe, in concussion protocol. That's going to be something to watch as well. But to be honest with you, I think this winds up probably being a Thunder versus... I'm going to say it. Thunder versus Cavaliers. I think the Cavaliers probably come out of the East. I had to sit there and think it out for a minute, but I because I didn't give the actual finals pick on the show. But I think Cleveland probably gets the matchup. I think if they get Detroit, they could outplay Detroit. The Celtics and Knicks will probably eat each other if they get out of their respective series. So to me, I think it might be a year Cleveland gets to the finals, and then if they catch Oklahoma City or San Antonio, they're getting rolled. That's my opinion. And even if they catch a team like the Nuggets, I don't think the top of the East, maybe Boston, if they put everything together, could match up with Oklahoma City or San Antonio or the Nuggets. But I still think the West, the champion comes out of the West, and I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. Now, to the actual fun postseason. And I say fun because it's still very stupid and flawed, because instead of doing what we used to do in the NHL for years, for those uninitiated, used to go 1v8 like normal. But because they were trying to work more rivalries into the postseason, they decided to do away with the 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7 format to what we currently have, And to me, it's just a mess because first of all, it does not reward you for being a really good team in the regular season, including winning the best record in the conference. So it's very disappointing in that regard. I mean, like the fact that the Colorado Avalanche had to take the Los Angeles Kings, a 4 seed in the first round, and the Carolina Hurricanes had to take the Ottawa Senators in the first round should tell you all you need to know. Those are 4 seeds playing a 1. The bottom tier seeds getting, in here and getting a better matchup than some of these is just ridiculous. But we'll go through it. We'll start with the West. Colorado's the heavy favorite. There's no way around it. Colorado is really, really good. And they have a 2-0 series lead on the Kings. I think they'll win that series. And to be honest with you, I think they probably win the West. So it's just a matter of how we get to that conclusion. Basically it. Stars Wild, this is a weird series because I thought Dallas would just move because Minnesota does not have the postseason track record of a team that you would expect to unsettle basically a really deep, really playoff seasoned roster, I guess at this point. A playoff seasoned, experienced is probably what I was trying to say, but I was being a dumbass there. But Minnesota tied it up at 1-1. I still think Dallas wins, but it's not as cut and dry as I probably thought it was. The Vegas Golden Knights versus the Utah Mammoth. Mammoth did a great job to get here. Vegas is not going to win the West because, they switched horses to Tortorella from Bruce Cassidy 10 games before the regular season ended. That is one of the most head-scratching, why on earth are you waiting that late in the year to do what you ended up doing? But they decided to switch horses late in the race. I don't see that working. I don't see that working for anybody, but maybe I'm wrong. Edmonton over the Anaheim Ducks. Edmonton's much in the same boat as Dallas. They've got the experience. They've got the better roster. I think they take Anaheim probably in 4 or 5. Anaheim put up a good fight. They're playing tonight at 10 p.m., so that'll be interesting to watch there. That was a tough game. I caught the end of it after the Hurricanes and Senators game. Obviously, as we move to the Eastern Conference, I am worried about my Carolina Hurricanes, but after playing one of the dumbest overtimes I have ever seen, where we decide to arbitrarily determine that Jordan Staal did not have possession of a puck while he was puck handling across the blue line. I don't know how that worked. That wiped off the game-winning goal. Canes get it back with Jordan Martinook. So thank God for Marty. Canes take a 2-0 series lead over Ottawa. Ottawa's tough. There's no way around it. Ottawa's a good team. And this is a brutal first-round matchup. And the goaltending for the Hurricanes is ultimately going to be whether or not this team can ever get over the hump and win a cup again. Right now, with the trifecta of Freddie Anderson, Pyotr Kochetkov, and Brandon Bussey, it's not giving me a hell of a lot of confidence because, Freddie's getting the starts right now, and Freddie, veteran presence, been here, done that, but there's always that downside that he's going to give up a couple of weak goals in quick order like you saw on Game 2. And it stresses the hell out of every Hurricanes fan. And they'd be lying to you if they said anything otherwise. I think they win that series. I had it in 5. They might even sweep at this point. Who knows? Philadelphia, up 2-0 on Pittsburgh. That should be very, very interesting to watch play out because Philadelphia, I don't think anybody had getting in the way they did and then getting a hold of Pittsburgh the way they did. I think a lot of people gave Pittsburgh the veteran advantage with Crosby and all their characters around. But again, Philadelphia wasting no time going up 2-0 in that series. The other 2 series at the top, more compelling. You've got Sabres Bruins evened up at 1 and the Lightning Canadiens evened up at 1. So being a cynical fan that I am and not really wanting to jinx anything, I picked Tampa as coming out of the East. And I even think I picked them earlier on to say they win the cup because I still believe that Andrei Vasilevsky is one of the best goaltenders that I've seen. And there's still a core that, can do so many things. But the fact that Montreal took a game from them does give me pause to go, okay, maybe not. Maybe it's not going to be that way. Trust me, if I could sit here and just say, oh yeah, Canes go to the Eastern Conference Finals and win and go to the Cup, I think they could win the damn Cup. if they get there. But it depends on so many factors with goaltending, and actually scoring late in games has been such an issue in the postseason for the Hurricanes. You know, you play these grinded out multiple overtime slugfests, and then it's just turning into a grind to try to win a game with a goal. And then you worry about you're having heart palpitations from your goaltending on the other end. It's just like, it's a tough way to live. So I'm sorry if I'm a tad cynical. I did this with the Huskies. I shouldn't have done it. I have every right to believe that the Hurricanes should get to the Eastern Conference Finals. From there, I don't know. I'm not even going to... Look, I want it to be a reality so badly, I'm not even going to go any further in saying what I've already said. You heard it. You can sense my discomfort, but doesn't mean we're not going to be rocking the Hurricanes all time long, and we're not going to be rooting like hell to try to get them through. There you go. So on paper, you could look at this and go, okay, it seems like Colorado and Tampa have the paths to getting there. I don't think Buffalo is ready right now. I think Buffalo probably jump the gun on the ascend back up the mountain after being down for so long. I mean, it's a great story that they're in it, and I don't want to take anything away from that. I just don't think it's reasonable to assume they're going on a cup run this first time around back in the postseason. So, moving on here, we've got a couple other stories to get to. We've got the MLB season. We are a couple weeks in already, and I'm not going to spend any time on my Red Sox because it's just pissing me off to no end. They're not operating like a serious franchise from the way this roster was constructed, and I was tricked. I was tricked into believing this offense would be better. It's not. It's a long season. I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater yet, but it's miserable. And the only thing that's saving me from being even more pissed off is that there are so many really good teams that we talked about on our season prediction show that have started absolutely piss poor that I'm not going to hit the panic button on anybody. Because again, we're 20 some odd games into a season. There's 140 some odd more to go. That's a long way. So if you're bad in the month of April, it's not ideal. Not at all. But it's not hit the panic eject button yet. But you still want to start better. But I mean, let's just call it like it is. Does not, for a lot of these teams, didn't get off to a good start. A lot of these teams are still going to rectify that. You know, it's not crazy to believe that if you're not leading the division in April, you can't win it in September. But going through the divisions right now, Yankees on top in the East, 2 games over the Rays, 3.5 over the Orioles, 4 over the Blue Jays, and the Red Sox 5 back in 5th. Again, Toronto, I picked to win the division. Toronto's look like crap. Yeah, and I mean, you know, Trey Savage is having to work his way back into things. Again, minus 21 run differential right now. That's pitiful. But everybody in the East has a negative run differential except the Yankees, and the Yankees have started hot. They went on a small little blip of a losing streak there for a minute, and then they went right back up. They're 8-5 at home. They're 6-4 in their last 10. I don't see that as sustainable. I mean, I think they'll be in the hunt for for a postseason spot. I just, I don't think they win this division. I also don't think Tampa figures into this division yet, but right now they get off to a 12-11 start. That's not good. The rest of the division has just played worse. Cleveland at the top of the Central, not terribly shocking. Detroit figuring things out. Started bad. Split a series with the Red Sox. That should tell you everything. Minnesota, though, who invited them? Like, I'm not mad. I shouldn't say I'm not mad. I was mad when we lost the series to them, but I'm not mad that they're good. I'm confused more than anything, which I guess isn't mad. It's just confusion. Minnetonka Murakami for the Chicago White Sox. He's looked great over at first, hitting the cover off the ball for the White Sox. They're in second to last. Kansas City, though, this might be the most jarring bad start to anybody in the AL. I thought they'd get off to a much better start. The pitching hasn't been there, which I thought would be a bigger part of the equation. And then to the end of the West, here, let's capitalize that we've seen some weird stuff to start this MLB season. They're leading the division over Texas, who I said would be in this picture. The Angels, not dead last, thanks to one guy, Mike Trout, doing exactly what Mike Trout's capable of when Mike Trout is healthy. God bless. If you're a baseball fan, you want to see that guy succeed. And if you're like me, you want to see him out of LA. We need to have an intervention. We need to lock him in a room and go, look, whatever we have to do to get you out of here. Well, if we have to call Child Protective Services, I don't know. We need to get you out of here because this franchise has wasted you. And I want to see him playing on a meaningful team with meaningful games, just not the Yankees. Preferably not the Dodgers, because where the hell are you going to put him? Don't do that. But he's looked great, so I'm happy to see that. And they keep trying to hurt him. The game is trying to hurt him and try to knock him back off the shelf. I don't know what the baseball gods have in mind right now, but they have a sick sense of humor. But here's the other part of this story. You've got Seattle at second to last, just a game out of last in the division. Seattle was a pick to go to the AL American League Championship Series. So again, a lot of teams starting slow. I am not hitting the panic button on the Mariners. I'm not hitting it on the Astros, although the Astros might be in a deeper hole than the Mariners, and they may be in a position to move stuff. I'm not hitting the panic button on the Blue Jays. I'm not entirely on the Red Sox yet, although they're really pissing me off. And you only pissed off by the ones you love. That's really how it works. If I didn't love them, I wouldn't be pissed off. Over to the NL side. Complete opposite start to last year for the Atlanta Braves. They were miserable out the gate. And they're still beat up, and somehow they've scratched across the 16-8 record. So credit where credit's due, at least from the opening slate. I owe Walt Weiss a little bit of an apology. I mean, people are still going to be really thrilled with how he handles things down the stretch, but we'll worry about that later. But at least for right now, playing good baseball. Mauricio Dubon's in there getting involved. They've got a good group of guys. That was never the question. The health was always the question, and the leadership at the top. Miami hanging in there. Washington hanging in there. But the story of this division is not those two, unfortunately. It is the fact Philadelphia is 8-15, and the Mets, losers of 10 straight. Losers of 12 straight, my correction, sitting in dead last after spending the money in the offseason, spending all that money a couple off seasons ago for Juan Soto. Devin Williams looks terrible as a closer. You've got Bo Bichette out there. I'm not even sure what Bo Bichette's doing. Lindor just smiling through it all despite them being absolute. I mean, they've just been ass since the start of this year. Philadelphia is a little more confusing to me. They've played some close games and they've blown some leads and such. So I think of the two to pull up out of this, Philadelphia is still positioned to be better. And I'm not just saying that as I picked them in the World Series. I think their pieces are going to gel at some point, and I think getting Zach Wheeler back will definitely help that rotation. And again, I said they'd have to go and add at the deadline for my theory to work. So they have to get up into a spot where you could add at the deadline. But I don't know what's going on. First of all, I think the Mets have a manager, have a direction problem, and that starts with the manager. I don't think Mendoza's the man to lead that team to the promised land, but I don't think you can make that decision right now. Though if it stays like this, you may have to pull the trigger on a firing and go grab somebody out of a broadcast booth or off somebody's bench because you have too much money at stake to be playing this badly. To the Central. Again, we're talking about some weird stuff to start this season. Cincinnati and St. Louis are at the top of the NL Central. Who the hell predicted that? No one. Cincinnati at 16-8 to open the year. St. Louis 14-9. And I love what I've said this forever. I don't hate anybody in the NL Central. I think all these teams are really interesting. Their fan bases are great. I love all their respective histories. It's the only division in baseball I can look at that and go, you know what? You all go. You're great. But the fact of the matter is, Cincinnati and St. Louis are not going to be in this position in September. I don't think Seattle, or excuse me, I almost said Seattle. I don't think St. Louis has the depth right now. They moved too many pieces around. Getting rid of Brendan Donovan, a piece you should probably build around, not build around as like the only guy you need, but a part of a core would be nice. Their core, some of those guys are still pretty good, and some of them are still young, but a guy like that kind of stabilizes things. You moved him to Seattle. I think the Cubs are going to pull up out of it. They're tied for second, so they're fine. Milwaukee, they're too bad. I mean, I should say, I should give full clarity here. The Reds are up 2 games on fourth place. and 2.5 up on the last place team in the Pittsburgh Pirates. Everybody in this division has a winning record. That's a beautiful thing. I said it a couple years ago. This is the most fun division in baseball. Continues to be. May even be that this year. And then to the West, San Diego and LA tied atop the division at 16-7. Arizona 13-10. San Francisco finally starting to trend a little bit upward. 5-5 in their last 10. The Tony Vitello start there as manager for the Giants. I thought, first of all, if you're making a decision on a rookie manager like 5 games into a season, you're completely out to lunch, and I don't want to hear your opinion on anything. But there were some glaring mistakes made and just some head-scratching decisions made at the beginning of the year from him. So I admit it wasn't pretty, but I'm not throwing... Again, you'll see... This segment should just be called, I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Because I'm not. I'm not going to do it. And I'm just letting you know that I'm aware that it has not started the way I thought it would. But that's okay, because this is baseball, and baseball does not care for anything I say or any expert says. Doesn't matter. You can look at it and you can sit here and pontificate till the cows come home. Does not matter. It's a brutal game, and it's the longest stretch of a year. So there you go. That's our look at the opening weeks of the Major League Baseball season. A couple other stories we're just going to rattle off real quick. Artemis came home. We didn't talk about that last week. It was really cool to see some awesome photographs taken of the moon from the other side. One taken on an iPhone. Apple's got to be like absolutely losing their ever-loving mind that happened. Really bad day for the we didn't go to the moon people. Look, it's one of those things that space travel to me in general is cool. I've always been creeped out by space. That's just a personal thing. Space is freaky to me. It's just something I can't even really grasp. I believe we went to the moon. And the main reason I can tell you that I believe we went to the moon is the Soviets didn't say we didn't go to the moon. They were in a race with us to space. And if their goal was to get to the moon, just like ours was, and they saw us get to the moon, and they thought we faked it, they would have been the first ones to go throw the BS flag on that. They didn't. So, to anybody that still believes that, do some looking. I know there's some weird stuff out there, but there's enough reasonable things that you shouldn't have to worry about stuff like that. But a cool prior process. You know, I will say we don't do a great job of letting everybody in on the picture, because that should have been a bigger deal. And I think I just looked one day and it was happening. I don't think we do a nearly good enough job. Like, you want to talk about unifying events in the world. We just don't have those anymore. Like, back when we went and launched Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins into the into orbit to go to the moon, that was a major, like, one of the groundbreaking TV events of all time. That was shown and everything. We don't have that anymore, really. I guess the Olympics kind of serves as that in some regards, but really, we don't have unifying things that people sit down and watch and take part in. And it's kind of disappointing because, you know, for better or for worse, we've had moments across history where everybody remembers where they were. I was watching one of my favorite documentaries ever made, OJ Made in America by Ezra Edelman. It was a part of a ESPN Films release years ago. I think it's one of the finest documentaries ever made, to get the entire scope of a person's life and all the people involved, and asking really tough questions of all those people involved, and doing it in a manner that is as comprehensive as you're going to find. But the OJ Bronco chase is one of those moments everybody that I've talked to that was alive can sit there and go, oh, I remember where I was when that happened. I remember what I was doing. I remember watching the NBA Finals, or I was watching this, and they cut into it. I mean, everybody remembers where they were. And I just don't think we have too many of those moments anymore. Now, most of the time they're tragedies, so we don't like to necessarily bring them back up, but they did exist. And to see something like a rocket launch, like we're going to send astronauts around the moon and come back, like that's, you know, that's pretty damn awesome. Human invention and ingenuity is something that will always amaze me. It always has, and it always will. And I think we need to celebrate more of those things in a kind of pat ourselves on the back moment. It's tough out there. Everybody knows that. But moments like that should be recognized. What's got my attention this week? It probably would have been that a week or two ago, but because the timeline didn't come out, I realize now that I am a little bit hypocritical with this. First off, what's got my attention this week is a reality-ish show. I should say ish because it's not a TV show per se. It's conducted over the internet. And as a devoted Barstool Sports stoolie, and I've been that since high school, and I don't have any shame in admitting that. Some people, it's funny because there's cultures of people my own age right now that like want to act cool for hating that don't like Barstool just for it being as popular as it was and for all the players involved. But like to me, what made them so interesting is obviously I got into them like anybody else that probably started before they got big, which is through the Boston sports stuff that they did. And being a Pats, Red Sox, all that stuff. That's how I got into it. Originally from the Brady Four that were protesting the Brady suspension with Portnoy. You had Hank, you had Gaz, and you had I'm drawing a blank. Why am I drawing a blank? Oh, I can't do this. I can't do this to him. Feidelberg. There you go. I don't know Feidelberg. Those four guys handcuffed themselves in the NFL commissioner's office there in New York, and it was great. And that's where I really got started with a lot of that story with Barstool, and then they did their Super Bowl show on Comedy Central, and in high school it was just a big thing. And I've never gotten out of the ecosystem because they have created their own ecosystem, much in the same way like the Opie and Anthony radio show or the Howard Stern show creates a community of people, whether they're on the show, they follow the shows, they're a part of it, they're all intertwined in there and they're a part of the story. Well, they do that with content creation and people making content, and they have a show right now called Barstool Spring Break, and they sent a group of the more interesting, provocative, younger crowd of Barstool employees out to Las Vegas, put them all in a house together. And basically you're seeing them interact in Vegas and, doing the hookup lifestyle and all that stuff. And I would probably shit talk somebody for watching like the Keeping Up with the Kardashians or keeping the Real Housewives of New Jersey on or whatever the hell Housewives of Bangor, Maine. I don't know anymore. But to me, the difference here is, I know these people and I know they're not actors. It's abundantly clear they're not actors. And there's a lot more clarity, and it's just happening in front of us. It's the second something happens on this show, it's on Twitter. And it's basically being, shown on social media around the clock, which is really interesting because in scripted reality TV horseshit, you just see people that are acting and faking and, oh my God, we can't get to Sydney's soccer game because the tire blew, or just, oh my God, I can't believe she wore the same outfit as me. There's all that bullshit. But this is just real. And here's the other part about it. Like, yes, this is junk food. This is junk food, but it's masterfully created junk food because Dave Portnoy, the mastermind of it all, sending people home, sending people out there, stirring up shit, having the people like fighting back and forth and whatnot. He is the puppet master extraordinaire. He's the guy that people like I are just fascinated to watch him work and see how he pushes buttons. And, if you're a fan of Howard Stern, if you're a fan of Opie and Anthony, if you're a radio guy, like I'm a radio guy, I love to see somebody who can push buttons really well. It's what I do. I love to push buttons. It's fun. Push them right here. Push, 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 push. It's getting reactions out of people. It's what I do. So to see it done at such a high level is great. The other side of it, which is so sick and twisted and just awful, is it's a real microcosm of what real relationships are in people that are single and dating in the world in 2026. There's just so much, like, there's terms. I'm 27, full disclosure. There are terms that are just thrown out that I swear to God they just made up 5 minutes ago. And this probably says more about, well, you're not in it, so why would you know about it? Look, maybe I'm not in a situationship, but the fact that we talk about it like it's just a common thing, like, ask your parents what a situationship is. It just didn't exist. And you know what? This is the boomer in me talking, or whatever you want to call it, the old man that's fighting to break out of me all the time. It's just nonsense. But it's nonsense that's not my nonsense. Now, there's a lot of it that plays itself out in everyday life in anybody's lives. I have friends that go through a lot of this stuff that I've talked to about it. There's just no reason for people to act that way, but they all do because it's now accepted practice in the wild. You go out to any bar right now and you go up to single females, there's one in every crowd that kind of acts like anybody is in this show, probably more than one. And they all think they're doing right by themselves. They're getting out there. They're showing off. They're living their best life. They feel like it's great. And it's just, the beauty of this show is to show you the absurdity. And this isn't what they're trying to do. I'm telling you, this is the layered, textured part of the show that's so great, is that they're showing you it and they're not in on the bit. They're not in on it. This isn't an act. This is just how it happens. And anybody watching would think, oh, this is bullshit. They're scripting this. They're fake. No, this is just how absurd it is. So you could say that's absurd trash or whatever, but it's real. That's not keeping up with the Kardashians. It's real. It's not good for you. It's like McDonald's. But guess what? You're going to pull through the drive-thru every once in a while and grab the fries. Don't act like you're not. I hate people that act like they're above it. Don't act like you're above it. You do it. You doom scroll on your phone for hours at a time anyways. I just happen to be fascinated by this. And I'm not sitting here going like, oh, I wish I could be one of them. But at the same time, I'm not sitting there like I spent last night, like part of my night after I got home from work, I was like, oh God, what happened? What broke up? And again, it probably doesn't matter to you if you're not in that ecosystem. But if you really want to be fascinated by the human experience in 2026, this show is a masterclass in a human experiment. And I love Barstool, so it is what it is. I know the players, I know who's involved, I know the characters, because I follow it. And I'm not ashamed to admit that. I enjoy it. You don't have to enjoy it. That's the beauty of right now. There's never been more examples of things you could do with your time. If you don't like what I do with my time, that's great. I don't want to do what you're doing with your time either. But I'm not going to gatekeep anybody. I'm the last person in line to say, you know what? I hate that. You shouldn't do that. That's stupid. And I'm not going to really cast judgment on it. I may say, if you ask me personally what I thought about it, that'd be one thing. But I'm not going to spite somebody else for liking something. Like I'm not a huge fan of a lot of different things. Like I had a lot of friends that are big into soccer. I don't care about European soccer. Not really. I'll watch a little bit of Charlotte FC and whatnot. I'm not a huge soccer person. But I would never begrudge somebody in gatekeeping going like, well, anybody who likes soccer is just a low intelligence clown. Like, what am I talking about? It's an athletic competition, and it's the world's most popular game. Am I going to sit there and go, yeah, the world's wrong and I'm right on that one? I'll say that about plenty of things, but I'm not going to gatekeep something that people are having fun, not hurting anybody with. Whatever. We could all take a big page out of that book if we wanted to be better in society. Getting philosophical here. But it fires up that part of me a little bit. And you know what? If you just watch sports every night and you just watch your favorite TV shows every night, maybe you get into a sense of comfort and whatnot. And I like to live a little bit on edge. I do. I like to be a little bit bordering on losing my shit. Just a little bit. I need a little bit of that. And it fires me up to watch some of that stuff because I just go, that's real, and it's making me mad because that's so stupid. I like to be challenged to like have a little twitch in my brain for a minute. It's okay. It's not. I can read a book, and I actually have a. You know what? And I wasn't planning on this. I just got one recently in the mail, and it was probably going to wind up being a what's got my attention this week at some point anyways, but I have recently acquired Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act, A Way of Being, and I'm really fascinated by it. I'm not big into these books that kind of, they're not, I'm more of a real, I like biographies. I like real world tellings of historical events. I like, dissecting pop culture. I've got I should have planned this out better. But one of my absolute favorite authors of all time, guy by the name of Chuck Klosterman, and I happen to have this one here. It's a highly specific, defiantly incomplete history of the 21st century. The book is called 10 for anybody interested. I've got almost every one of Chuck's books. I love reading his material, and it's a lot of collections of essays and different things in his books. There's Fargo, Rock City, Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs. Got his other book, one of the other ones right here. It's a book called The 90s. There's a lot of great titles. My favorite one, and I think the first one I got into of reading his was I Wear the Black Hat, which is a history of villainy and other figures of our time. It's just great stuff like that I love to read. But if you want to check out his work, there's so many great interests. I would recommend any one of his books. And like I said, I own most of them. I just happen to have these two sitting close by me. Like I said, I've always kind of had this dream of having like the bookshelf so I could look like Adam Schefter or somebody, sitting with the big bookshelf of all the books, all my Jeff Pearlman books, Chuck Klosterman, and now I have the Rick Rubin book. So I'm interested to read that and finish it. I just started it. A lot of books that I haven't finished. I've got Keith Richards' book. I've got Stones in Exile, which is the book about the recording of Exile on Main Street, my favorite Rolling Stones album. It's A Season in Hell with the Rolling Stones. So I'm behind on my backlist. But the point of that whole discussion topic is to say this. You can read fine works of literature. You can do what I do, which is watch a lot of historical documentaries, like the Vietnam War. You can do all that stuff. You can watch sports, and you can watch a little bit of trash content. It's all good. You're not a bad person for it. You can. Some of the people you watch might be bad people, but that's not your problem. That's the point of it all. So we teased it at the beginning of the show. We're going to wrap up the show tonight with, I'm going to give you our big board top 10 for the draft. We put out our mock draft for the first round on social media. If you haven't already seen it, you can go to that one and our social media pages and check out our top 10. Start from the bottom top. We've got the 10 players at the top of my big board as far as overall talent's concerned in this draft. And we'll break these down tomorrow night, but we're going to give you our top 10 and wrap this one up. The offensive lineman from Utah, we've got Spencer Fano. Wide receiver out of Ohio State, Carnell Tate at 9. At 8, you have the linebacker out of Ohio State, Sonny Styles. You're going to hear Ohio State come up a lot in this first round, just to let you know. Number 7, the defensive end for the Miami Hurricanes, Ruben Bain. 6, the linebacker for linebacker edge rusher, combination guy, Arvell Reese from Ohio State. Number 5, Caleb Downs. This is top 5 here. Caleb Downs on talent, number 5. The safety out of Ohio State. Number 4, the running back out of Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love. Is my 4th big talent on my big board. Number 3 is the quarterback from Indiana, the Heisman Trophy winner, national champion, Fernando Mendoza, projected to go number 1 overall. Number 2, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech. Speed freak off the edge with a high motor, David Bailey. And the number 1 player on my board, just on pure talent and prospect ability, probably the safest player I would think you could take in this draft, is Francis Magoa, the player out of Miami, an offensive tackle for the Miami Hurricanes. That's my Big 10 right now. I'll go ahead and also tease our QB draft board. Spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen, we only have 1 quarterback going in the first round in my mock draft, but I will give you one to give you a little bit of an appetite teaser here. Our top 5 QB draft board. Number 5 is going to be Drew Aller. I put him at the bottom here. I probably could have floated Luke Altmaier in this spot. I'm going to go with Drew Aller. I think Drew Aller goes higher than Luke Altmaier. I like Luke Altmaier more, but I have Drew Aller as the 5th best option at quarterback. Number 4 is Carson Beck. It's probably a disappointing situation. This is not a good quarterback class at all. It came into last year thinking we were going to have a great QB class. It turned out to be rather disappointing. Garrett Nussmeier is at 3. Garrett Nussmeier coming into last season, was my favorite quarterback in this group. He had a bad year. He was hurt. Offense went to hell. His head coach got fired. It was a mess. And I think that reflects poorly on the whole picture of his career at LSU, because I think he really did show flashes of being a guy that I would think you could put in a situation and succeed. Number 2 is Ty Simpson out of Alabama. He's the clear-cut 2, in my opinion, in this draft. I don't think it's particularly close, but there's a big gap between 1 and 2, and then there's an even bigger gap between 2 and the rest. So Ty Simpson sits at number 2. I admit the Gruden's QB camp with him, I was impressed with his analysis and accuracy. I thought he worked really well in that setting. But number 1 is Fernando Mendoza. I think it's pretty clear cut. He's going number 1 to the Raiders. I don't think anybody will be shocked by that when it happens, but it just kind of has to. The Raiders need a quarterback. This is the best one. This is a bad quarterback draft. So there you go. That is our big board, and that is our QB top 5 for position group rankings. We'll bring you the rest of those tomorrow night as we bring you the 3rd annual MoonLight Meteorworks Draft Show Extravaganza. For this bonus show this week, we appreciate everybody's patience in getting this to you, but thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Collins Janus Show. The preceding episode was a production of MoonLight Meteorworks.